Fine. I think everybody is able to view the screen now. So as I said, we'll start with the supply chain management. So to begin with, we'll show how the material master, how you can define an item as part of the material master, and then we'll walk you through the flow starting from the procurement till the inventory and the reports we have as part of this module. Okay, the first thing is we support as to categorization of an item code. There can be many levels. There is no restrictions on how many levels or how you want to group the materials. Like you can have n number of categorization, some 3 levels, some 4 levels, some item 2 level, as you feel like. It's a more of an hierarchical definition, with the last level being the actual item code. So it's a flexible way by which there will not be any control as to how many levels which is supported while creating the item code or categorizing the items as such. Okay, so we'll choose a particular item, say the medication what we have been using in the morning also, ciprofloxacin, just to have a continuity. So this is medication, so where we have defined the item code for this item already. So we can classify, as you said, the levels and various category, and whether or not lot control is required. This item, some of the items there may be lot control required, and some may not, and you may decide, the hospital may decide whether the stock needs to be maintained at the lot level or it's not required like. So we can specify that whether lot control is required or not. And also another key feature in our system is the ability to define the attributes. What does it mean, especially in case of items wherein you have like stents and catheters? It's of different sizes, and it's very difficult to go and then create an item code for each and every item. Size of catheter or stent. So in that case, we can say what is the main item as one particular item, and we can say this item has many attributes or variations to know the more specific item like. And you can choose the attributes as to what is it. You can define a brand itself as an attribute, and you can say what are all the brands which is associated with this particular item. You can choose the brands. So in this case, I am saying this particular item, it is having 3 brands, and whether it's optional or mandatory. Like if it's, when you say it's mandatory, every time you choose this particular item, system will ask what is the brand associated with this particular item like. So you can decide whether you want to create a separate item code for each brand, or instead you define it by the generic and have the variations, the different brands which is supported for this particular generic alone as a separate attribute like here. Similarly, for catheter, you can specify size as an attribute apart from the brand, the manufacturer. Like this, we can have n number of attributes associated with the particular item code also. The benefit of this is you, when you are defining it once, and the variations you are specifying it here. As and when you refer this particular item in any of the transaction, system will automatically populate for this associated brands or associated size, whatever attributes you have defined here, and it will ask you to specify which brand or which size, and accordingly it will assign a specific unique item code for it. You need not go and then create. It will be like the same material code hyphen the brand code associated with it, hyphen the size code associated with it like. So it will automatically assign a unique material code. When you are doing a physical count or taking a ledger, you can take the ledger based on the main item or including the attributes. That flexibility is there. This is one key feature we can claim which is unique to our system, which helps a lot, especially handling surgical supplies and cath lab related items. And we have provision to have specified multiple purchase unit of measurement. We can say what is the stock unit of measurement, and you can have different purchase unit of measurement. The stock and purchase unit of measurement may not be the same. and it can vary also. So these are all the things. Other aspects, I will not dwell into it. Just a minute, excuse me. The rest are mostly common information which is available as part of any system relating to a material master. Like so we can relate material to suppliers, like as to what are the preferred suppliers for this particular item, and this list can be updated automatically by the system, like as and when you choose a particular supplier to supply this particular item, that can get added into this material versus supplies list as a preferred supplier. So next time you know who is the last supplier from whom we procured this item, like. Okay, and also we support sub-store concept, meaning within an organization. So it's not just one single organization. We support multi-branch, and this is applicable for the RCM part also, what we saw in the previous demo. And here, when it comes to supply chain management also, we can have one main facility or main warehouse, and we can have multiple branches, say one hospital and 3 associated clinics to that particular hospital, or the same hospital having multiple branches, more than one facility, and having a common purchase department. Like, so we can define that organization structure as to which part of the organization or which facility has the purchase rights for which facility and which item. It can be varied from one item to another level also. Also, like within each facility, we can have sub-stores, like ward. Each ward can be a separate sub-store, outpatient pharmacy separate sub-store, inpatient pharmacy separate sub-stores, and so on. Like lab, radiology. So individual sub-stores what you may have in the hospital, that also can be defined. So the main organization, the various facilities or branches within that organization, and each facility having various sub-stores. And at each of these level, we can specify who has the authority to procure, what is the minimum level, the reorder level, and all of those stuff, and the associated unit of measurement, everything we can define it in the system. Fine. So this is what we wanted to show as part of the material master and definition, right? Now we will close this screen, and then we will run through one complete flow starting from an internal requisition. Say a particular department wants to have certain item, so it does not have stock for that particular item in its store, be it say outpatient pharmacy or inpatient pharmacy or any other sub-store for that matter. So it's raising an internal requisition to the main warehouse for that particular, requesting for that particular item. So this is the internal requisition screen. You will see now, wherein the concerned person who has the authority to raise it can have raise an entry. So we'll use the previous entry itself. Okay. Fine. So this is the internal requisition screen. So here we have already placed an order, say Ceproxim, the tablet what we saw here, and another item as a baby moisturizing cream. So any retail pharmacy item which can be sold as part of the pharmacy also, we can see that. And what is the schedule like? Whenever you are making an internal requisition, we can always specify like from where I am raising, what is the required date like. So this particular item I have requested for 6 quantities, but I need 2 quantities by this date and another remaining quantity by which our date like. So you can have your schedule of requirement ranging from not necessary, you can say that all the items are required now. Each of these items as to when it's required, you can specify the schedule. Okay, so once the internal requisition is placed by the department user, whichever the individual substore user who is responsible for maintaining the stock within that particular substore. So as and when the requisition is raised, this request goes to the person, the respective department, to say in this case a warehouse, who are responsible for replenishing the stock or transfer the materials based on the request. We'll see what happens there. Okay, so I'm closing this internal requisition screen. Okay, so once the request is made, sometimes if it needs an approval, all of these transactions, any transaction in the system for that matter, you can define as to whether it requires an approval or not, based on the request as to whoever has the authority. So that transactions will be listed for approval for that particular person, and he can approve that. Once it's approved, only it will be reflected or it will be shown into the next step as to wherever it's involved. Like, okay, so the warehouse user, we are just to save time, because one person is requesting, the warehouse staff is another person, so just save time, we are switching between the windows. It's going as it will be a different user who will be performing all of this. Like, so in the warehouse, as all the internal requisition whichever is raised by the individual users from various branches and various substore, like, all of it will be listed here. So you can choose as to which of the internal requisitions you want to process now. So you choose a couple of them. Okay, so here, so the requested quantity is 25, and none of it, you can do a partial thing also, and none of it is sent or transferred to the respective substore yet. So I am doing a click to transfer. Once I click on the click to transfer button, so it will list for me the details of that particular request, and I can decide as to how much quantity I will transfer now. So they may have requested for 25, but I may not have the entire quantity, 25 quantity, to transfer it to them. So I will say I will transfer now 10, whereas the remaining 15 I will say it needs to be procured, because whatever the stock available, it's required for other allocation. So I can specify what is the transfer quantity and what is the purchase quantity. So out of 25, I am saying I am transferring 10 quantity from the current stock, and the remaining 15 I want to purchase. So as and when the internal requisition is received to the main warehouse, depending upon the stock availability, they can decide as to how much quantity they need to transfer and also how much quantity they want to procure. Okay, and moreover, and it's sometimes the stock may not be available in the main warehouse, whereas the same item is available as access in some other facility or some other warehouse. So even they can make a request for the respective substore wherein that particular item is available in excess, to do a transfer to this particular substore. So all of this can be controlled by the authority, or the person in authority within the main warehouse. Okay, so this is the allocation. So based on the requisition, they do an allocation, and then they also specify as to what items needs to be procured. From here on, there is two different flows. Whatever items which is identified as needs to be transferred, it goes as a request to the respective department. If it's an the main warehouse itself, it goes to the main warehouse. If it's the substore, to the respective substore, it goes as a request. From there, they will do a stock transfer from their store. Supposing whatever items whichever is marked as needs to be procured, that goes into a procurement life cycle. So we will look at both the life cycle as to how it is done. So we'll start with the procurement. So there is certain item which is identified as needs to be procured. Okay, so this is the transfer. So that whatever items which is marked as a transfer, that goes to the respective substore for to be transferred, like, so they are doing a material transfer entry. So it's not the procurement, the other cycle, like whichever it's identified. So it goes into a transfer entry. So here we can specify as to what is the lot, from if there is more than one lot, which particular lot we are actually dispensing, and it can be, if there is multiple lots, it will be listed here, and we can specify also of the total quantities I am dispensing, how much I am dispensing from whichever lot, like. So once this material transfer is done, there is two process again here. It can be like an auto update of stock to the other substore. So it's, or there can be an acceptance which is mandated from the other substore, like. So they can do a goods invoice note preparation. So the other department has a substore or facility has transferred this particular item to the substore. From here they can do a goods invoice note preparation, saying I have received an material invoice note, some items within as an internal transfer from here. Okay. Okay. So here there are many types of receipt. When we are preparing a goods invoice receipt, it can be, I mean, certain times when there is a direct purchase of a particular item without any purchase orders or something, then you do a direct receipt. Supplier we may call and then ask for a particular item to be supplied by the supplier, and you just pay cash and then take it. No need to go through a complete procurement life cycle. So in that case, you will use a direct supplier cash receipt. So like that, there are various types of receipt. So receipt through a purchase order and so on. So in this case, so it's a receipt from other branches basically. So we choose that. Okay. So whatever the transfer entries which is made from the other branch and which is available here, like it will be listed like this. So you can once you choose and then you specify the fetch material, all those items which is transferred from the other items will be picked and then shown, from where you can select the item, specify the lot details and everything. If it's a material transfer, it will be automatically picked and then applied here. Okay. So now we will get into one purchase life cycle. So this is like requested for material. It goes to the warehouse. They have approved certain items needs to be transferred. And based on the approval, somebody has done a transfer entry, which is received in the warehouse, and if the stock is updated, like. So this is one flow wherein we are assuming the stock is available. Now that for certain quantity or some items which is requested by the warehouse, and and the stock is not available, so we want to initiate an procurement for it. So we will run through that. So for which we have something called purchase requisition. So first of all, whatever items which is identified needs to be procured, we need to raise a purchase requisition for that particular item. Okay, this is a sample for the approval of what I was talking to you before. So any type of transaction, we can define the approval, and based on whoever is identified as the person who has authority to approve, they can approve. Like, so in this case, they can either approve, they can reject or suggest price like alteration. Why you want to place 50 quantity? Why can't you reduce the quantity? Something like they can request for something, and based on that suggestion, the suggestion message will be triggered to the original person who initiated the transaction, and he can update it accordingly, and it will trigger an reapproval request to the person. So the complete authorization workflow, communication between the subordinates and the superiors, and all of those aspects, and also escalation in case like there are two parties which needs to be approved and someone is keeping the record. Say in this case, for example, this particular gin is pending for approval for 6 days, and automatic alert or escalation to the next one in the hierarchy saying this is pending for this many days for approval. This aspects is available as a generic feature within the system as part of authorization, and any document per se we can define as single level, multiple level, and with various provisions as we saw can be handled. Okay, so now we'll start with the purchase requisition. Okay, when it comes to purchase requisition, there are many ways of raising the purchase requisition. One such flow is what we saw, based on an internal requisition from a department requesting for certain item, and we don't have stock for that particular item. So based on that request, we are raising a purchase requisition. That's one aspect. And other provisions are like, you don't want to wait for someone, some department to, like, request for a particular item and then raise a purchase order. Like, so instead we can, based on the minimum order level and the reorder level which is set in the system, we can all at any point of time periodically the respective user can check for any available items which has gone less than the reorder or minimum level, and based on which automatically a purchase requisition can be placed for that particular item. Like, okay, so this is for the provision. So from here again, since you are placing the purchase, we can specify the schedule. The schedule can be either generated based on the original request, or you can specify a different schedule here, like as to when I need these items. I can specify the schedule. Okay, and then I can save this purchase requisition. So this again will go for authorization. So if at all this particular item is in purchase pipeline already, some of the items which have been requested already, then we can know from the history as to how many items have been requested, what is the current status of that particular item, whether it's in PO state or whether it's in quotation state, what state it is. That history is something we can know from here. Okay, so like this we can raise a purchase requisition. Okay, so the requisition number now closes. If there is any predefined templates or pre-printed stationery which needs to be used, we can use like close this. Okay, so once a purchase requisition is made, based on that we will have okay, so we'll go to the next step of the procurement life cycle. So based on the purchase requisition, we are sending a request for quotation to certain suppliers like. So here the request for quotation again can be a direct request or based on the purchase requisition which is already raised. So in this case we will choose the through request itself, the type of material, and it can pull all the information which is pending for which it requires a quotation needs to be raised, like all those transactions. You can choose any of the transaction combination of more than one purchase requisition raised at various point in time, or we can just select one of it alone and then proceed. So we'll just choose the two items which we use now, select. The same item can be requested from multiple persons also. In this case, that's what we saw here. There was two requests for Cephroxim itself and one request for this. So the individual details are there, but when it goes to request for quotation, it sums up and then goes as one thing like. So, but internally, the reference to the purchase requisition is maintained. So when we receive the material, we will know for whom we originally raise this PO and for whom it needs to be allocated like. Okay. So once we choose the item, we can choose the supplier. So either there are two options. One, you can choose all suppliers defined in the system and choose the suppliers, or based on whatever suppliers identified against in the material master as to who is a preferred supplier, from that particular supplier alone we can choose also. So there is both the provision. So in this case we will choose say 2 or 3 suppliers. Okay. So it shows who is the preferred supplier also while choosing. And for each supplier, whether for both the suppliers will be providing the quotation for both the items, or there is any change in preference like. So all of this we will specify and save the quotation entry like. Okay. So to save time, we'll just quickly move on. If we're just making the entry and saving, it will take time, so we can use the previous entry and then we'll demonstrate. So we have defined as authorization required for each and every document. That's why it's going for authorization. But that's again, it's definable in the system, controllable in the system. Okay. So once we have made the request for quotation, then we will be receiving the quotation. When it comes to capturing the quotation is concerned, there are two aspects again, variations. One is that based on our request, some supplier is providing the quotation, so which we are capturing it in the system. Another thing is a supplier may walk into a hospital or purchase department and then say, we have this products in offer and we offer at this particular rate and so on like. So what we call it as a quotation bank. So we don't have a need for a particular item now, but since a particular supplier has walked into the department and they have given a quotation, so those quotations also we can capture it here under the direct quotation category and store it in the system as part of the quotation bank. So next time when there is a need for that particular item, instead of going through the complete requesting and then getting like, if there is any quotation entry which is already available in the system will notify that and we can use that quotation also. So in this case we will choose it through inquiry. So based on the inquiry, we are receiving quotation entry, say from the first supplier and then from the second supplier. So we can capture those various information, whatever they have, what is the rate each supplier is specifying. Okay, and apart from it, one other key feature what we have in the system is relating to the other information. So while we are selecting a supplier, just the pricing alone does not determine as to which supplier we want to select. Like there are other factors also which is key in deciding the supplier. Like so, this information can be defined in the system too, as to uh, what is the delivery period and what is the payment terms. All of this information can be captured as data rather than as mere text. So we have those ability to define that also. So we'll specify to capture the rate against the other supplier also. Okay. Okay. Now that we have received quotation from two suppliers to whom we have requested, the next step would be like there is depending upon the what you call the process flow which is defined in the thing. There may be a purchase committee which is involved, which needs to review these quotations received and decide on the supplier. Like sometimes it can be an automated choice based on the lowest quote, and sometimes it can be more detailed process of going through a purchase committee and so on. So for this purpose we have something called a comparative statement, wherein all the quotations which is received from various suppliers can be viewed like against each other. Okay, say these are all the two suppliers we have. So I am generating the comparative statement as to the quotations received based on these two suppliers, and you can see here I have an detailed analysis of prices received from each of this supplier like with thing. And if you see here, it's more of an Excel. Usually most of the purchase department, once they receive, they prepare an Excel sheet like this with the item and with the comparison provision for each thing. So similarly here system generates that sheet like how it normally looks like within the system itself. And you can see here it by default it marks it as green, the lowest quote for each and every item, and you can choose also one item for one supplier, another item for another supplier. As to which supplier you want to decide, you can choose all the information. It's not just the rate. Again, any we didn't capture any terms and conditions relating to delivery and payment terms, so anything which is captured there also again as data is picked and then displayed here. And we can export this into Excel also for some purpose. You're going to a committee wherein you want to produce this comparative statement in the committee, like for somebody's approval also. So you can have the provision to generate it as an Excel. So however you are seeing it in the screen, same way it gets generated into an Excel sheet. Okay, so this can be used also. So generally exporting to Excel and PDF format is available for most of the reports, and again it's controlled through user rights. You can decide as to which reports you want to have the provision to generate, export it to Excel or PDF, and who has the authority to do that. Even that aspect we can control. But here this is a general practice usually as far as comparative statement is involved. So we are showing this provision there. Okay. So once this is done and we have chosen the supplier, the next step is to raise the PO based on this particular supplier. So when it comes to purchase order, again, see all of these steps, whatever we showed from the requisition to this till stage, it's something optional, and it's best practice in a bigger organization wherein they need to have proper control, and there is an exclusive department to handle all of this. They can follow this, each of these steps, whatever it's detailed like. In places wherein you don't want to have all of this, instead you want to just start from the purchase order provision alone, or for some of the items you can define like any item for which the value is less than say 500 or 1000, it can be a purchase order direct. Anything beyond 1000, it requires 3 quotation before deciding on a particular supplier like. So this is again can be a policy. So based on that policy, whatever it's defined in the system can allow or restrict as to for which items you can place the purchase order direct. Okay. We'll go back to the menu relating to the various options we have in the purchase orders. Okay, so we have one of the aspect I was explaining is the purchase order direct. So certain items we can place directly from purchase order. Sometimes you may not go through the comparative statement and all. Based on the quotation itself, you would like to place a purchase order, or you may need to have a provision to raise a purchase order based on the requisition itself. Say from requisition, I want to skip the quotation entry, comparative statement, and all of those aspects, but directly go into the purchase order from the requisition line. So any of this step from purchase requisition till purchase order can be skipped, and then you can say that where the purchase order can be raised either directly or based on the requisition or based on the quotation which is captured, or only after the comparative statement is completed. So depending upon the authority level and rights set as to who has the authority to do which type of transactions and any value limits which is associated with each type of transaction, system can automatically validate that and then restrict. Okay. So to continue our flow here, we will go by like based on the comparative statement and whatever it's approved. So we will raise a purchase order based on that. Okay, so that's what we are saying, purchase order through comparative statement. So meaning all, so we complete the full cycle and then we go in here like. So from here, I'll raise a purchase order and save. Okay, so once the purchase order is raised and approved, then once we receive that particular item from the supplier, we have the provision to capture the goods invoice note. So last time we saw it's an entry, based on the material transfer note, we raised a purchase, or we raised an goods invoice note. In this case, it's an through PO, based on the PO as to when we receive that particular item. Like. So here again, there are two aspects. Once we receive the item from the supplier, so we specify as to what items we have received and capture the goods invoice note based on that. Okay. The next step is there is something called inspection, and again at the time of raising the requisition or depending upon the item also, we can specify as to where is the delivery. Delivery is of the particular item is to the warehouse or directly to the individual department. Like accordingly, an item will be delivered to the respective location, and from there they can raise an goods inwards note, inspection note. That is to confirm that whatever items we have received, it is in accordance with our specification and so on. Okay, so we'll close this. We'll not continue with this entry. We'll close this and then we'll just show the goods inwards note preparation as to how it is. Okay, so the next thing, the goods inwards note inspection. So this is again like we can define as to which of the items requires inspection, which of the items doesn't require inspection, and accordingly whether you need to have a two-step as to receiving the material and also having an inspection entry done for that particular material after you receive, or straight away it can update the stock. Only after the inspection entry is made and approved, the stock will be updated for that particular item. Okay, so this is on the end-to-end flow from starting from purchasing till this. And similarly, as far as the internal inventory is concerned, we talked about material transfer from one substore to another substore. Okay, and the physical verification, material, anything issue, direct issue, consumption for that particular item, and very excess note, shortage note associated with the physical verification. We can have a periodic audit or an year-end physical verification. All of those various aspects associated with it. So everything is handled here. So we will quickly look at the various reports we have. Key reports, at least what we have as part of the supply chain. Then we will move on to HR and payroll. Okay. So as part of VMM, we have a big list of report, and some of the reports which is configured against this particular user. Say we'll look at the stock statement. Okay. So and our reporting tool, it's more of we have an inbuilt reporting tool based on which all of these reports are generated, and it has the provision, like it's easy, whatever options you can think of in an Excel sheet. When you have details listed in Excel sheet, the ability to group, sort, filter the details for that particular item, and the way you want group it, everything. Like here again, like you can view it grouped by the category. With, you see here the attributes as defined in the system. It can be two level of reports, one leaving out the attributes and another with the attributes. However you want, you can define. So just the value or quantity alone, or you want both, all of this can be defined here. Like, okay. So, and the purchase lead time analysis and what is the status of that particular order currently, where we stand, the outstanding POs, those aspects. The most common, the options which is required for purchase order tracking and purchase requisition tracking. Those provision is there. So can you just look at the purchase requisition tracking sample. Okay, from here, like as to what is the status, it's a drill down also, you can see here. One thing is we have the ability to drill down, and from here any related transactions you can just right click on a particular item and ask for more information relating to that particular item as to what is the to know exactly the status of that particular item, like. So it's a very flexible reporting option what we have using which. So as a sample, see for example here, so we have an item, so against that particular item you can just ask for, and whatever information which is associated with that will be picked and then shown, like. Fine. So this is on the uh, supply chain, like. We were trying to run a bit fast because within 1.5 hours we want to cover both supply chain and also the HR aspect. So some of the entries we created already and we were just showing it, and some we wanted to enter it and then so that to have a real impact as to know what we are showing, something like comparative statement and all. You need to see it in live to appreciate it. So certain aspects we were entering and then showing, certain things we were taking from the previous entered entries and then showing, just to save time, like. Okay, so this is on the supply chain. So next we can move on to the HR and payroll and see what we cover as part of this. Okay, and just give us a minute for us to start on that. Okay, so as far as HR is concerned, can you open the human resource and show the various options? Okay, so we cover the recruitment process, the complete cycle involving the recruitment of staff for the organization as far as HR is concerned, and also the training. The training is a separate, this particular user does not have the authority. It's a separate module. We can show what options we have under training also. And the appointment, once the recruitment, the complete process involving the joining of the staff to the organization. There are various documents that we need to verify, the various process they go through for the appointment. That's just a separate process. Okay, so once they joined, then what happens on to handling of leave, attendance, shift handling, the various aspects relating to each of these functionalities, either it's a leave process or shift or just in case there is an ID card which is printed then given to each of it. So what is the process associated with that? And handling of loan, if there is any loan advance request, and then scheduling of it, and then deducting it against the payroll, the related aspects. And finally, if the employee is either terminated or resigns, as to what is the process involved in that, and the same employee if he joins, what other process we have left. Okay. So apart from it, we have various provisions relating to, like, importing certain information. Say for example, capturing of in time and out time. We can integrate with the time office. We have a time office management module also. Or if there is any devices, either an iCard reader or a fingerprint or a punch data punch card system, whatever, we can integrate with those, and then we can capture those details also into the system. Like this, there can be feeders to the basically the payroll aspect, or any of the information whatever here. There can be external feeders. The provision to import those data from whichever feeder is what we cover mainly on the other ad hoc features which is listed there. Okay. So now for our aspect here, we'll take an process wherein, like, how we can define if you go through individual aspects relating to recruitment, training, and all of those aspects. It will take time, but we can just quickly glance through as to what are all the information we cover against each of these. Say for example, under recruitment, okay, so we have the provision for employee requisition, like in individual department or department head can make a request for adding more staff to his department, like, and it goes through an approval, and if there is any change in that, any document, once it's raised and approved, it needs to have an amendment. They cannot go and edit that particular thing. And some cases, once the recruitment process is completed, it gets automatically closed, and sometimes it can get rejected, or so some difficulties in recruiting, so we can close those allocation here. And the employee allocation and transfer, this is like interdepartmental transfer. Once you have request for an employee, some other departments who have excess staff, you can just transfer those staff from other facilities or from other departments to cover the requirement for a specific department. So those things are covered as far as the allocation, transfer request, and actual transfer. So we can know that this employee was working for this department under this head, and he was transferred to this facility or this thing. So again, here HR module also we handle a scenario wherein one organization having multiple facilities, and most of the back office modules, be it HR, finance, or supply chain, it's mostly handled like from within the head office or centrally managed, and covering all of these facilities. Certain transactions may be facility specific, certain things needs to be across. So it can be an inter-facility transfer also. So all of those aspects can be handled using this. Okay. So now, before the next process is relating to that appointment process, so we can have the call letter sent to various parties, and capture the details relating to as to who attend the interview, capture the interview assessment, sending an offer letter, and preparing sort of joining report as to how many persons we interviewed, how many we offered, how many joined, and so on. Okay, so the complete process involving recruitment till the joining of that particular employee is handled okay. So now similarly we have for the leave also. So we can look at the leave request itself as to show you what aspects we cover as part of the leave management. So we have something called leave definition. wherein we can define various types of leaves associated with the organization, like, and the flexibility relating to as to uh, which of the type of leaves, how many days is there for each, what can be carried over for the following year, what can be encashed, and so on. Like, so these are all the various types of leave. So each leave we can have a definition, say effective from this. This is a policy of the hospital. This policy can change from one period to another, right? So whenever changes, we can close the saying that as of this date, this policy is inactive. A new policy, what is it, effective from a new date, we can specify as to what is it like. So for each of the leave, we can specify whether it can be accumulated, if so, how many days can be accumulated, or how much percentage can be accumulated in that, what can be carried over, whether it can be encashed or not, and sometimes like whether you allow the uh, uh, employee to take this leave in continuation with other holidays we may have, like any other holidays they can combine this, or whether it's not allowed, all of those aspects. And for each of these leave is applicable for which category of employees and which category it's not allowed, all of this can be defined here. So this is again like we have it as a rule definition, as a criteria, wherein we can specify it as a condition. It's not just one particular field, like we can say the employee status is confirmed and his primary role type is this, and the employee role type is not related to this, then for this person alone it's applicable. Like here it's displaying the code, but while selecting it will display the value. You will not remember the code and all of those stuff. Like this, we can have complex conditions built also to say for whom this definition is applicable. So you can have multiple definition and then say this definition is applicable for this condition and this definition is applicable for this condition, and so on. Okay. So this is on the leave definition part. Now we will look at from the payroll perspective, because so as to how the components and the salary structure is defined, like we can quickly have a look at it, and then from there, at the time of joining, based on the salary structure which is associated with to that particular patient, we can see, like, how the payroll is calculated, like. Okay, so then we will move on. After we seeing this, we can move on to the other aspects. So as it involves post or during, the rest of the features is based on this slide. Okay, so we have very flexible provision to capture the various payroll components, like this is again one of our key strengths. So we'll open the pay component definition screen. Okay, so here in general, as per the hospital policy, as to what are all the various allowances and deductions which is there, like we can define all of those allowances and deductions which is applicable for various types of employees, like, and for each of it, say for example, we will take HRA, which is the most common one, allowance, then see how what are the flexible options you have while defining this, like. Okay, so we can say whether this component is a direct component, meaning like you just give a fixed value, or it's a computed component, meaning there is a formula based on which you compute the value here, like. Okay, so in this, the how an HRA needs to be calculated, it's specified as a formula. So here we are saying if the pay structure code is a specific pay structure or another type of pay structure, then we need to take the basic, which is one of the salary component itself, and apply 40%. So 40% of basic is what is allowed as HRA for a certain grade of employees. So whatever is this grade, how do you want to know apply the structure to that particular grade, we can define it as a condition here. So this is one aspect. Similarly, we will see a deduction, another component. Okay, just to show you. So here again we have something called value where class, as you can see, and when we are demonstrating the next one, see that. Say we'll take say LOP, so the loss of pay. So we want to define how the loss of pay needs to be calculated, right? Okay. So here we have the value and also the validations as to what validation needs to be applied before calculating this component. And here the formula is based on the basic of that particular employee divided by the number of days in that month, which arrives the fee or the basic per day for that particular employee multiplied by number of LOP days. So it's not a simple formula even. You can have a complex formula like this wherein we can define, and it's not just the calculation of value to whom this is applicable. That is also you can specify it as a condition. So this is not a common formula which will be applied for everybody, right? So we can say for this person this is a formula, for this category or this grade this is a formula. Like that you can whatever is the variation, so based on that variation we can define. So once the pay component is defined, okay, like this, the various allowances, deductions, whatever is there in the system, we can define. Here again, with the provisions, features, what we have in the system, we guarantee any complexities, whatever you may have relating to calculation of any allowances and deductions, and as to how it needs to be applied, can be easily handled by the formula builder and the criteria builder what we have. Okay. So the next step is to define the various salary structure. So you have defined all the components, and not all the components will be relevant for various grades. Like so, you can have individual salary structure with certain allowances and deductions, which is applicable for different grades, like defined as a individual structure. You can see here the one for the directors, another for the admin staff, another for the supervisors, and so on. You can have defined the salary structure, and you can say for which type of employee this is applicable, and the various components which is part of this particular salary structure. Like we need to just define, like choose from the various components which we have predefined already. Just choose those components which is applicable, and how each of these component needs to be calculated, we have defined it there already, so system will know how this needs to be calculated. Like, okay, so this is the second step. We have defined the pay component and then the salary structure. Now that this salary structure can be related to a particular grade or whatever, as to whom this salary structure needs to be applied. So depending on the grade to which the employee is joining, automatically this salary structure can be applied. Like, say for example, we have a particular employee is joining, so we are generating a joining report. So this is the first place wherein we confirm, like this employee has joined the organization. So that's an entry for that, wherein we will specify his grade, department, supervisor, where he is, all of those information relating to that. Okay, whether it's what is the type, whether it's a direct rejoin or contractual employees, is wherein we take employees on a 2 months or 3 months contract alone. Like, okay. So you specify that. Just quickly capture the detail and apply this pay structure, and then see how it's automatically applied. Like, so this is will be the process involved as far as defining the pay components and the structure and relating that structure to a particular employee. Like, just keying in the mandatory information alone to save time. Okay. So based on the basic which is defined and the structure, we are linking the employee to a particular salary structure, and accordingly just choose and apply. The system will calculate as to what is the necessary thing based on the information which is already predefined, and it will list here. So automatically the HRA and various allowances which is defined in the system will be calculated based on this. Okay. So this is the process involved as far as the payroll aspect. We just wanted to show the flexibility what we have in terms of defining pay component, how we can define a salary structure, pay structure, which can be, in this case we are just mapping the structure to a particular employee, but there is provision to define or relate structure to a particular grade also. So depending on whatever grade the employee we are assigning, automatically that respective salary structure will be picked. Okay, so that process is also supported. Now, close this. Move on to the other features what we have. Okay, so the leave aspects we saw already. The next thing is capturing the in time and out time of the employees. So here again, there are various aspects of capturing. The in time and out time, so it can be, as I said, it can be in fingerprint reader or eye scanner or whatsoever which we are using to capture the in time and out time, or it can be capture of in time and out time directly into the system, or it can be monthly sheet attendance details as to how many days the employee visited as an entry generated by the departmental supervisor and sent as an Excel sheet to the payroll department, wherein they upload these details directly into the system. So however the requirement is for that particular hospital, depending on the policy and the various provisions we have to capture the thing, system has all the flexibility, like it can be in fully automated process, or it can be as thing like departmental head entering or providing a monthly sheet which is captured and then updated into the system also. Okay, so this is relating to the attendance. So right from integrating with these card readers to direct entry. Now we can probably uh, show you how we can run a payroll, like the process involved in that, and then look at the various reports what we have. This pay components I was talking to you about, the payroll components. So the flexibility, again, another flexibility as to what we have is we can define these components, and as you can see there are various processes. Salary process is there, bonus process is there, like end of year you want the organization is announcing some bonus, and it's based on certain conditions and criteria, like we can define the components related based on which this bonus needs to be arrived, and that can be defined as a separate process, and similarly, like encashment process, relief sale process, full and final settlement process, RES, like you have there is an increment which is announced and they want to pay effective a certain period and they want to process the RES for it. So all of this, the various process relating to the payroll, it's not just the salary. So each of these process, whatever it's required, it's not something like predetermined, whatever you are seeing here. Any other provision which is required also can be defined in the system, and the associated schedules related to that each of the process. Based on that, you can choose and then run that process. Like, so salary process, of course, it's monthly, so we are just doing that. When it comes to others, when it's a one-time process or it needs to be run on an ad hoc basis, you can choose that also. So here again, whether you want to run for all branches or a specific grade of employees or particular employment type alone, or you want to do it for all employees, you can decide. Like, there can be separate salary date as to what is the salary date for each grade of employees, to avoid the workload, to share the workload within the payroll department. They can have different salary date for different categories of employees. So those things also we can define, and based on that we can run the process. System will automatically take into consideration all the aspects, the leave and everything. Based on that, process will be generated. Okay, just to show you the various aspects involved in this. It's not just the salary process. Similarly, for even for final settlement and all of various complexities involved in the final settlement, those things can be defined as to how do you calculate, your service benefit and all of those things. How do you calculate those things also we can define. And this process, like once you run, like we have chosen 2 employees, you can know the status as to what is the current status, like whether it's running for one first employee. We can know the progress also. Okay, and here, and depending on the way it is paid, sometimes it's a statement which is generated and sent to the bank so that the bank can do a direct bank transfer to a respective account. So those aspects it's there, or it's for laborers it may be like cash payment. For some people it may be a payment through checks. So for each and every grade or for each and every employee, based on the payment mode, the salary payment mode which is defined in the system will either generate a bank statement or generate a payment check printing request to the payable module, accounts payable module, or a cash payment request again to the accounts payable module. So it's again integrated, like the HR and payroll, it's tightly integrated with the finance module, and each of these aspects when it comes to costing, accumulation relating to the rent or HRA when we are paying in one year advance, and so all of those aspects is handled and it's tightly integrated with the finance module too. Fine. So again, the idea here is to give an overview as to know as to what are all the various options we have in the system, the coverage we provide as far as the HR and payroll is concerned. Okay, so we'll quickly go through the various report portions relating to HR and payroll model, what we have, various options for you to have an idea as to what kind of reports we support. Then we will leave the floor for Q&A. Okay. We have captured most of the reports relating to the thing as a screenshots, and it's just run through those things to save time. Okay, so these are all the various reports we have. The general, attendance, leave, each category of HR modules, the related reports are in each of those sub-modules of HR. Okay, so it's a long list of reports. more than 100 plus what we have already predefined in the system. Okay, so we'll go through some of the samples now. Okay, nominee details. Okay. So this is a salary detail report with individual detail, and within this reporting tool itself, we can define as to which of the information we want to submit and then show. That provision is also there. Say, for example, this total you want to display it here. Okay, so it's a sample employee personal file. Shift information detail. Various reports. Okay, fine. So this is a different type, wherein you have multiple levels with the cross tab provision again. So going through these reports will give an understanding capability of our reporting tool as well as to what options we can have. Even we can have images as part of the report also. So it's not just a printable thing for viewing purposes. So you're viewing an employee profile as part of it. You need to have an image displayed somewhere that is also supported. Like fine. So